Welcome back to America's Forum. I'm J.D. Hayworth.
And I'm John Bachman.
And John, as we take a look around the world and specifically within our own hemisphere, some real problems. More demonstrations in Venezuela Wednesday. 3 people killed apparently. 25 deaths this month during protests in Venezuela. Yet the government of that nation remains resolute. Our Secretary of State, John Kerry, says our government is prepared to sanction Venezuela if the situation worsens, but he also cautioned that the country's economy is already fragile. John, we had insights into that, of all things, within the last 6 months, and the death of the former strongman Hugo Chavez, the toilet paper shortage. And it sounds like a joke, but it's serious in terms of just the basic necessities. It came down to a line where they didn't even have the economy to have toilet paper in Venezuela. And Chavez, with his endless geopolitical flirtations with the likes of Ahmadinejad in Iran and the steady streaming of Iranians into Caracas on virtually a weekly basis from Tehran, led to some real concerns that remain, concerns that continue to be addressed in the House of Representatives by my former colleague and good friend, Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. Ileana, it is good to have you on America's Forum today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so very much, and bless you for talking about Venezuela and the assault on human rights and this thug Maduro, because you're one of the few outlets that is looking at this, and Maduro is taking advantage of this to continue his assault on democracy. In fact, today, the latest is this. He's called the peaceful protesters, a name that is going to justify him taking further criminal action, armed terrorist insurgency. Now, these are peaceful student activists. They're not armed. Maduro says that they're armed terrorist insurgency, and I fear the worst is going to be happening in the coming days.
Now, Ileana, the House approved the resolution you drafted supporting peaceful protest and the right of citizens for peaceable dissent in Venezuela. What's the end game with Maduro in your mind?
Well, he wants to take over Venezuela in the same way that the Castro brothers have, and that's why this administration, looking the other way, is just not an answer. We have no foreign policy to speak of, no real policy direction, especially we're direct in Latin America. And so what we've done is I've written a letter to the president, and it was signed in a bipartisan manner, calling on the president to take action similar to the action that he's taken against Russian human rights violators in Ukraine. But knowing that the president will probably not take action on Venezuela, I have filed a bill that does the same thing. It would deny visas so that they can't come to the United States. They can't we'd be blocking property. We would freeze the assets and prohibit all sorts of financial transactions to members of the Maduro regime who are responsible for the commission of serious human rights abuses against the citizens of Venezuela. And also, the freedom of expression is just terrible what's going on there. The Assembly of Citizens in Venezuela is getting greatly curtailed. They're limiting the access to print and broadcast media. And what we've seen is that one of the things that we should do is reduce imports of Venezuelan oil. This would prevent Maduro regime from using the profits from the sale of petroleum to further oppress and further violate the human rights of the people of Venezuela. According to our own Department of State, the U.S. imported 17% less of barrels per day from Venezuela last year than the year before. And they keep falling and falling, so we're already importing less. This downward trend has got to continue, but also my bill calls for the OAS. This OAS is so ineffective that they make the United Nations look like a real legislative body.
Whoa, that's saying something, Ileana. The Organization of American States is dysfunctional, you're telling us.
Even more so than the United Nations, and we fund them We fund 40% of this terrible body. They get 40% of their budget from you, the American taxpayer, and our bill says that our permanent representative to the OAS has got to use the voice, the vote, the influence to defend what has long been the factor that has entered into U.S. and Latin American relations, which is the Inter-American Democratic Charter, and so we're doing all we can to help the folks who have been detained, the peaceful protesters, and just like the Cuban regime, Maduro likes to blame the U.S. for his own failure. The reality is that Maduro is the one who's been responsible for the trampling of human rights. And do you know the economic situation where you were just pointing out in your segment right now? The food shortages, high inflation. This is a country that had all the natural resources and all the money, and yet people don't even have toilet paper, as you pointed out.
Well, Congresswoman, I wanted to ask you about the region, a different topic really, but we just heard from the commander of U.S. Southern Command, General John Kelly, and he's asking for as many as 16 new ships now to help with drug interdiction in the South Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Ocean as well. And this would also play a role here with Maduro trying to flex whatever muscles he has here. There's General Kelly on the screen here. Is the general right for asking for these additional assets? Is that needed? I know this is an area of concern for your congressional district.
Well, absolutely. I think he is right in calling for this. What we have seen is that when the U.S. is looking the other way, when we're looking at what's happening in Ukraine, we're looking at Syria, we're looking at Iran, as well we should. Those are very problem areas for us. But what happens is that the drug traffickers and the cartels and the thugs, including terrorists, will make their way into the United States. I mean, remember that we saw a planned assassination of our Saudi Arabian ambassador to the U.S. It was a planned attack in Mexico. They planned in Mexico to carry it out here in D.C.
Yeah, you talked about it. You know, this is certainly an area of concern and something that should get more attention. The General asking for more attention as well. Great to have you with us here, Congresswoman. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
I'm pleased and honored. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ileana. We look forward to talking to you again. And after the break, we get to hear what you think about the day's major stories. Here's how you get in touch with us. You can tweet us at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. Visit us at Facebook.com/Newsmax, or use that old dependable email. Our address, connect@newsmaxtv.com. We're coming right back.
What you don't know.